Oh, gosh. You would have to ask me that question. I know you know the answer, so help me out.
No, I honestly, I'm not an attorney, so I don't.
But you could be a movie buff.
Your panel should know what time frame it was written in. Was it the
Depression era.
Depression era.
It was during the 1930s, yeah.
Yeah, it was actually written...
The movie was cut in 37.
No, and it actually came out and it was released in 1939, but it had actually been put together, and a couple of different movie studios declined to do it, but they finally got it out in the public in 1939.
I'm going to have to do some more serious research into that particular movie because it struck me, and ask your panel if I've lost my mind or not. But the allegory, you mentioned the little flying witches, the little drones flying around,
little monkeys,
doing things. Yeah. Well, the main characters were who? A cowardly lion who needed courage, a tin man who needed a heart, and a straw man who... I'm not sure what his shortcoming was.
He worked on Wall Street.
Well, no, my allegorical mind sees the Cowardly Lion as the British Empire after World War I. Okay, after it's been decimated after World War I. The Tin Man as being the Northern Industrial Complex of the United States, and the Straw Man as being the agricultural giant of the United States.
Yeah, he was the one looking for the brain, by the way.
The brain, that was it.
He escaped from Wall Street.
Yeah.
I just wondered if that had anything to do with the Anglo-British aristocracy.
I don't know. You're asking me a philosophical movie question here, and I don't know the answer.
I think it does.
Okay.
I think it does, John.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob.
As a guess, I think it does. And it was brilliant. And, you know, I never realized it until, probably the late 60s, the early 70s, what the writer was up to.
Yeah.
It was brilliant.
Writer was...
So like Gulliver's Travels.
The writer was Frank Baum.
Frank Baum. You Googled that.
Of course.
Tell the truth.
Jeez. Don't think I'm that smart.
Do you remember the Wicked Witch that wanted the ruby slippers? Do you remember what she said when they finally got to her and they threw some water on her? I'm melting! My world, my world! Who could have thought that a little girl like you could destroy my beautiful wickedness? And I see that as an allegory of people in this country standing up and going, you know what? We're tired of being slaves. We're tired of being usurped. We're tired of paying your interest. Let's get on with it. I mean, Bob, let me ask you a question here. If the United States Congress, and who knows, I mean, do they have these guys in compromising positions? I mean, what is the great hold that they have over the majority of them? You spent years in Washington.
90% of them are simply paid off. It's contributions from industry, corporate America, Wall Street, banking. They buy legislation.
And what do they got? What do they got Barney Frank on? Do they have pictures of him with a naked woman that made him look straight?
Barney was running a male whorehouse. And somebody busted it, and he's still paying for it.
And look who's the head of the financial committee up there. Hey, go figure.
But, you know, the people in Congress who have been compromised that we don't know about probably are around 5 to 8%. It's hard to say because we don't know of all the ghosts in the closets. And you get 3 or 4 or 5% good guys. And so 95% of Congress you can't deal with. That's why Congress does not represent a solution. Neither does the courts. The only thing that's going to save America is revolution.
Let me ask, can I ask one more question before you cut me off?
We're going to charge you for this one.
I'm telling you.
Okay, up there in the rarefied air again, if the World Bank does come through with their... we go through the hyperinflation, we go through the whole scenario, the deflation, the hyperinflation, and they come across with a one world currency. Will they tend to back it, Bob or Robbie, either one, on any commodity or basket of commodities, or do they have something else in mind?
Well, I mean, they're talking. I mean, that was obviously the debate going into the G20. And now you have the GCC, the Chinese and Russian leaders who are talking about including gold in a single currency union. The only problem is they haven't figured out where they're going to put this new central bank and how it's going to be linked to the U.S. dollar. But, yeah, it's talked about.
And how much gold they're going to have.
Well,
and whether it's going to be digital.
Yeah, they're going to sell it.
People will not accept it. And I'll tell you why, Rob. Because they're listening to this program.
Yeah, but that's how they
like this all over the world.
Yeah, but Bob, remember that's how they sold the euro to the Europeans. By obviously,
and they sold most of the gold off.
Yeah, absolutely, because there was a myth.
That's how they bailed out the COMEX 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
the gold is gone. The gold.
Well, I don't know how much they got left, and neither does anybody else. But it's not much.
What did I hear the other day that the IMF was getting ready to sell off 400 tons of it?
Yeah, but that's I mean they
right.
They,
it's all Dominic. I forget his last name. The head of the IMF. He said they've already got it placed with nations. It will never go on market. And so the Chinese are sitting there licking their chops piled with dollars and saying, my goodness, we can get 403 tons of gold and get rid of all these dollars. Please sell it as quick as you can to us.
Yeah. I mean, look, even Goldman Sachs came out today and said the IMF gold sales are going to have a very limited impact on the prices of gold because well, I mean, it's a simple fact of life. One phone call.
The U.S. Congress has to approve it.
Sure.
Will they do that? Probably.
Yes.
And they also mentioned that selling all 403.3 metric tons of gold will take a few years to complete. And I guarantee
not if they sell it privately. It'll be done in one fell swoop.
Yeah,
and another
China.
thing, too, is that all that gold has to be given up by the people, countries, central banks, who have promised to give it to the IMF. They haven't done that yet. Now, I envision a country like Germany saying, well, we owe you 80 tons of gold, but we're not going to keep it. We're going to give you dollars instead. And the IMF's going to say, well, gee, that's fine. Keep the gold. All we want is the money anyway.
By the way,
all kinds of things are going to go on here that people don't expect because they don't know what's going on out there. And most of the newsletter writers don't either.
By the way, John, you've heard me say on this broadcast before that we have an interesting mix in this country. We have a mix of communism, socialism, and fascism. Well, communism, the end result of communism versus capitalism was to come up with something in between. You know, we got to be neutral. We can't give too much to that. We can't give too much credence to this. So let's just settle for socialism. That's the class system. That's how the government is going to view us. They're going to socialize us. That's why Billy Clinton used to say, oh, I feel your pain. Well, and now that we're having great pains, we have the great Barack Obama or Barry Sartoro out there saying, you know, we all need to share in this.